Hello, this is Embrosewyn, and today is October 20th, 2019, and I've been asked if I would be so kind to channel my good friend from higher realms, Philos, who I've been speaking with since 1995. And Philos has been a wonderful companion. He's given us hundreds of pages of knowledge and wisdom that we've applied to our lives and shared with other people. And I'm sure you've probably seen some of his earlier videos from 1996 and 97 that we have been recently posting on my YouTube channel. It's Esoteric Mystery School with Embrosewyn. Now we're going to see if we can get an update from Philos. He's agreed to answer questions about his life, because he's always telling us about how to improve our life, and we, and I think a lot of other people, would like to know more about, well, what's it like actually in higher realms? And how'd you get there, and what do you do when you're there? Because if you look at all the different religions of the world, they're all kind of nebulous about that. So let's see if we can find out a little bit more information. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you now and let Philos come in and talk with you. Greetings, Philos here.
Hi, Philos. So good to have you in the present and on tape once again.
Well, thank you very much for asking me to come here tonight. And I'm not sure that I can answer all the questions that you want, but you can give it a go and we'll see what happens.
Great. Okay, well, we know the answer to this question, but for the sake of those listening, please tell us what your connection to Embrosewyn is.
Imbros and I are very dear friends, and we've known each other for a very long time. I used to live in a different dimension, if you will, of the earth that you're on, and I knew Embrosewyn there. Embrosewyn, I can't really say too much about Embrosewyn because of who he is. I don't want to reveal too much about that on your public video there, but you know some things for that. But Embrosewyn and I had a relationship as friends well before I ever became a higher being, if you will. It's funny to talk about myself as being a higher being. I don't really think about myself that way, even though I'm in a completely different realm than you, and it is a higher realm, and it takes a lot of effort to get there. But I still interact with Embrosewyn and many other beings on many other planets as well, and I'm still a very humble person, I would like to think, and very down to earth. And so the friendship I have with Embrosewyn, even though he's on a different realm, that still seems to me like we're best buds. But as far as that, we've had a lot of experiences together before this life that he's in right now. And these are everyday experiences, not woozy higher realm experiences, because this is before I was in a higher realm. I haven't had any experiences since I've been in the higher realms, except for when I communicate to him like this. But prior to that, I lived in another earth, if you will, that was very similar to your earth and very similar to your what would have been Arizona in the 1800s on your planet. And I knew Embrosewyn there, at least an energy form of him anyway.
Okay, well, thank you. Can you please tell us a little bit about your last lifetime and your experience of going from mortality to your next level of existence?
Somewhat, I can say. Some things you probably already know from our communications with you, and I don't want to say too many things on that regard because people have their different belief systems and everything, and I don't want to shatter those in any way. But I will say that I myself lived in, as I said, another dimension of what would be almost like a parallel earth of yours. If you can picture from the movies or whatever, town of, or the territory of Arizona in the 1800s from say 50 to the late 1880s, that period of time. And I lived there in a town that was similar. At that time it would have been Tucson, like your Tucson. And I lived there with my wife, Sanine, and you were there, and you were there, and then Embrosewyn was there as well. At least a farm of you, that was familiar. And we had a very normal life. It was not anything particular. Sanine, my wife, was an artist. You were, Celiana, were an artist as well. And the two of you were actually in that life sisters. And I mean literally, physically sisters. And for myself, I did whatever I could. I think I did a lot of things. I was a miner, I was a gambler. I did just a normal life. I wasn't anything particular. I can't say that I was a great spiritual being or anything like that. I was just a normal person.
Okay, well, how old were you when you died, or did you die? You've told us this.
You tell me, you already know that story.
I know, but this is for the sake of those that don't know your
Well,
story.
I want to hear you tell it so I can see if you actually remember it. So that's my test. Is it worth my time to come and say anything if people don't remember what I said?
Of course I remember.
All right, well,
what you told us is...
Well, I'll see if you pass the test then.
Okay. Well, you had an experience in your lifetime where you were drowning and you called for a higher, or you were, I don't even think you knew about higher beings, you just called out for help. And at that point, someone came to help you, and they helped you by stepping into your body, and then they stayed and helped to enlighten you throughout your lifetime, and you lived to be a very old man, outlived your wife, and you got to the point where your body could no longer contain your essence, because you had learned so much that you translated. So you went instantly from mortality to immortality, and you didn't just go to the Cropian realm where most people go when they die. You went to a part of the Cropian realm that is for galactic beings or higher beings. Did I get that right?
Well, you are really past the test, and thank you very much. You saved me a lot of talking. Well, that's very good. Yes, you have to understand, it was very strange for me, and I can't even to this day say why I was selected for that experience. As I said, I was just a normal guy. Nothing spiritually special about me. I tried to be honest in my dealings with people, and even when I gambled with them, I didn't ever do it dishonestly. I never did anything like that. I tried to always treat people well, and I think as I look back now from my higher perch in existence, I can say that that's actually the most important thing you can do. It really doesn't matter what your religion is, what your race is, what your culture is. All those things are not very material to God, to Elohim. They want to look at what your character is. And if you're a good person, which I tried very hard to be when I was in the physical life, I tried to be honest with people. I tried to be helpful to people. If I could see something that I could do that would help other people, I did it. And I think that it's because of who I was as a person, my character, that yes, when I was not really a very good swimmer, like in fact I could not swim at all. And so when I had the unfortunate experience that I ended up in the water above my head, and my feet couldn't touch the ground, and I couldn't get to where the ground was under the water. And so yes, then I did have that unfortunate experience, but I did call out for help, and something that I never could have imagined before. And I understand now that, and I understood then, after it occurred, that there's a thing called a walk-in, where you have the essence of another being who is from a higher plane at that point, who can enter into your body. It's basically a manager of souls for that point. So there's two souls sharing a physical body, including your mind, but it's both. So you're consciously aware. You don't have to be, but if you can also be, it depends what the agreement is between the two. Because when you have that walk-in type of experience, it only can occur if the person who actually whose body it is agrees to it. So in this case, I was asked that I could be saved if I would agree to have another being, a higher being of light, come into my body and share it with me. And of course, I didn't hesitate at all. Yes, please, hurry up. Come. Yeah, permission granted. And so then that occurred, and it's an immediate. All of a sudden, I knew how to swim. I didn't know how to swim, but my body did it anyway. And but that was a very interesting experience. And I'm not going to say the name of who that was, because I don't think that's pertinent to the experience. But from that point on, for the rest of my life, he shared a body with me. And it was my body, but I was sharing with his essence. And it was as if I had a person that was always there. So if I would see something with my eyes or hear something with my ears, he would see the same thing and hear the same thing. And it would be, you know how sometimes you can talk to yourself in your mind while you think about things? Well, in this case, my mind actually did talk to myself. So I would think a thought, but he would know the same thought that I just thought. And so he would think a thought in response, and I would know that thought. And it's actually quite an interesting experience. I wish everyone could go through it, to be honest with you. That's very uplifting, because it allowed me, because he was a higher being to begin with. He was already beyond where I was in my progression. And so I was able to glean so much knowledge from him and become a much more, as good as I might have thought myself was before, but I became much better a person. I treated people better, and I became much more knowledgeable about so many things I had no idea about before. I really didn't know anything about anything beyond the little area that I lived in my life until then. All of a sudden I knew things beyond this planet that were incomprehensible to me before. I hadn't even heard about things like that. In fact, people didn't talk about things like that like they do today. And so that was very incredible. But the main point is that having this wonderful being with me as a walk-in allowed me to gather to myself a great deal of Celestine energy that I would have already normally have gathered. So just for those who might not be familiar, your soul essence is basically composed of Celestine energy. And it has all your memories of this life, emotional traumas, emotional ups, emotional downs. All these things are contained in your soul essence, but also every life that you've had before. Now most people have only had one physical life, but they may have incorporated the memories and even the emotional memories of many other people, which is why many people think they've been reincarnated many a times. So they might have all these memories that are just as real as their own, emotional traumas that are just as real as their own, that have come from other lives. Those are all part of you, and you can take in all of these things, and how you deal with those things determines if you're going to gain any more Celestine energy than normal, or if you're going to lose Celestine energy more than normal. And in my case, I gained a lot more. So every person just existing in the physical life, just that experience of being in the physical life, you automatically get Celestine energy. Just like the sun shines on you and the rain falls on you, so Celestine energy gets absorbed by your body just from the ethers. But you can also do things in your life, good actions, that will cause a greater amount, like a magnet. You become a stronger magnet and you draw more and more Celestine energy into your soul essence. Or you can make poor choices and bad actions, in which case you give up the soul essence, Celestine energy that you already have. It leaves you. You can actually end up with less after the life that you live than what you began when you were born as a baby. But in my case, because of the fortunate experience of having this wonderful walk in, I gained a great deal more. Now I lived to a ripe old age, over 100 years old actually, which is very, very old in those days, and even to this day I think. But in any case, I was able to pass on from this life in what they call translated, meaning that my body did not physically die, even though it appeared like it died to people. That was actually just my spirit left the body while the body was still alive. So after that the body is dead, so to people, but it wasn't, I didn't experience physical death. And so that was a wonderful thing, and I went from there, in, as you said, sort of what you said, the Cropian realm, and this is a very interesting thing that I think people are not really understanding, and it's, at least to me it's interesting, and hopefully to you as well it will be, but when anyone dies, anyone, including myself, other than perhaps Yeshua, that would be an exception, normal people, the place that you go is the Cropian realm. Now the Cropian realm is as vast as your universe, it's enormous. But it's not your universe, it's like inside your universe, it's like another dimension, if you will. And everyone goes there, and in this place there are many different habitats and many different worlds. It's like, I shouldn't say it's as big as your universe, it's like a gigantic planet, bigger than Jupiter. And so there's many places on this world, and there's many other worlds that surround it as well that you can go off into. And each one of them have a resonance. And whatever the essence of your soul is that you've gained from Celestine energy and from your actions in your life, you're drawn to that resonance. And people perceive it as punishment or reward for their life, where they get drawn to, but it's actually just a resonance. That's where it's not like someone, it's not like God says, okay, I'm going to judge you, like it's commonly said in religions that God's going to judge you. You do stand before God sometimes, if that's your religious belief, and I'll talk about that matter in a minute, but you're actually drawn by your own resonance to the place that's the only place that you can exist at that point, with your resonance. And whether that's a punishment or a reward, that's up to what did you do in your life to deserve where you went? So that's the question. So in any case, here's a very key thing that people don't understand. Whatever you believe, you're going to be drawn to that perception of reality for a time. So for instance, if you're a Christian and you believe that you're going to go to heaven or hell and you're going to stand before God and He's going to judge you, well, that's going to be a reality perception. And for a time, that's exactly what's going to happen. Wherever you think you're supposed to go, to heaven or hell, and whatever you perceive it to be, that's where they're going to end up. If you think that you're going to be the part of the throne of God and God's going to make a judgment upon you, then that's going to happen. And if you think that you're going to be floating around on a cloud, riding harps, wearing white robes, then that's what's going to happen. If you think you've been an awful person, you know you're going to be burning in a lake of fire and never being consumed, well, then you're going to be starting to burn. But it's a perception. It's part of the Cropian illusion, if you will, that every person, regardless of what their belief is in the afterlife, gets what they believe for a time, even if they don't believe there's anything. So for instance, someone says, well, I'm an atheist and I don't believe in anything except the physical life I'm living now. There is no reincarnation, there is no life after death, there's nothing. Well, when that person dies, for a time, there's going to be nothing. No sound, no light, no heat, no cold, no anything. That's what they believed, and that will be their perception. But because that's actually not the universal reality, so they can't have that maintenance of that perception for very long. Most people actually only have it for a year or two of your time at the most. The longest I think I've ever known anyone to be able to maintain a perception of what they thought the afterlife was going to be would be around 50 years if you have time. So in any case, that's what happens right after you die, and that's what happened to me. But what I perceived, because I had this higher being that had already been walking in with me, and I knew so much about what the realities were, I didn't have to go through all those false illusions, and I went right to what's known as the Galactic realm, where I was with other people who were at that same level that I was, the same resonance. So everyone at that Galactic realm is at that same resonance. That doesn't mean that everyone's the same, because they are very, very different. And but being in the galactic realm is very fun, actually. And I should say, I still was not, at this point, touched in any way by religious things. I was spiritual, but not in the way of any kind of religion in any way at all. And that's true for really all the galactics. And you have a wide range of galactic type of people, and they're not all human beings either, I should say too. Although when you're as a galactic, one of the beauties that you have is you can manifest yourself any way you want. If you want to be a big muscular young man in your 20s, you can be that. If you want to be a voluptuous young lady in your 20s, you can be that. If you prefer to be a horse, you can be that. It's whatever you want to be, and you don't have to choose the same thing forever. So you could be a beautiful, young, voluptuous young lady in your 20s on this day, and the next day you say, well, I want to be a hunky young man on this day. And that's just the fun thing. You can transition and be whatever you want to be. And I think of all the things that galactics get to do, that's the most fun, is you get to be anything you want to be, anytime you want to be it. And nobody judges you, and nobody says, like, you can't do that. So that's pretty fun. That's a perk of being able to go up there. But other than that, I think for me personally, I joined an organisation called the Celestine Order of Light. I should say I didn't really understand what that word Celestine meant at the time. It has much greater ramifications, which I learned later. For me, Celestine just meant a higher plane, a higher spiritual desire to have greater light. That's what it meant to me. It means much more than that, I know now, but that was what it meant. And I joined this organisation because I like what they are doing, as I had all these different beings that we call galactics, galactic energy beings, who could take any form they wanted to be. And the galactic energy beings, they found a group that their purpose was to help planets and people that hadn't reached the stage that they were yet. They were still at a lower level. They hadn't had that much Celestian soul essence energy yet. But to help them when they could. And they acted a lot as mediators. That was a very big function of that. So for instance, on your planet here, you haven't even made alien contact yet with beings from other planets who are in the same physical realm that you are, let alone contact with higher beings from the galactic realm. But in many worlds, that is the case. Not only do they have a great amount of communication with beings of other planets in this physical realm that you're in, but they also have, not all of them, but some of them have communication with higher beings like galactics. For instance, Embrosewyn's connection to me when I was a galactic, that's a connection. So, and also galactics, just as someone walked into me to help me when I was drowning, that's the same thing as that, as galactics, I don't like Ambrosewyn's mustache, you know. He used to have no hair on his face. That was much better. If you look at those older tapes, why does he have all this hair? It's very itchy and it's hard to stay still when you have that itchy stuff on your face all the time. Anyway, I'm sorry, Embrosewyn. Alright, so where was I? I get long-winded. I apologise. I don't get the chance to talk very much like this. I talk to a lot of people, but it's normally in their minds telepathically, and so when I get the chance to actually do a full body, full trance channel, it's like being in a playroom. Yes, that's so as long as Embrosewyn doesn't pass away here while I'm talking, from all the energy that's happened, is to hold on to. So anyway, what was I talking about? I can't ever remember.
About being a galactic and
so yes, one of the things that we do with those who are understanding, so there are many planets in your universe, many planets, that are far more advanced than this Earth that you live on. There's many that are like your Earth as well, and there's many that are more primitive than your Earth. You're kind of in the middle for that. But on those that are more advanced, not only do they have regular communication and trade with other planets, other solar systems even, but they also have people like Embrosewyn who can connect to galactic energy beings. And the general populace, even though they may not be able to connect with galactic energy beings, they are very accustomed to those who can and are very accepting of those who can. And so what happens, and this is a great purpose of the Celestine Order of Light, is that when you have a planet that is at this stage of evolution, and you have a war or a threat of war between one or more countries on the planet, but those countries both have people who can communicate with Galactics. They understand, the politicians, even though they may not be able to communicate, they have trust and faith in those who can, who are in their people. And so they will call upon them, and they will ask the Celestine Order of Light to come and mediate for them. And I did this a great deal at that time when I was, for a long time while I was Galactic. And they would come and we would walk in. So for instance, there's country A and country B, and they're fighting with each other, and nobody wants to keep on killing everybody, but they can't find a solution because this side wants this and this side wants the opposite. But they both agree to call in the Celestine Order of Light Galactics. And so we'll actually come and we'll walk in to, so for instance, I might do this by myself. So I would go to country B first, and I would walk into, so say, the president's body. And so for 1 week, I would be in the president's body, just like that being who came into my body. So I would be able to see through his eyes, I'd be able to hear through his ears, I'd be able to know all the thoughts that was in his mind, all his memories, that would all be there for me. So what is achieved by this is that I'll then have a complete understanding of their point of view. Whatever they're using to justify their war, I understand it now. And so next week I would go and I would do the same thing with the leader of the other country. So I would have a complete understanding of that person. And we often would do this in pairs, so that I would go to one person and another galactic from Celestine Order of Light would go to the other leader, and then we would switch and we would each do each one. So then we could then understand both, and then we would have a conference where we would sit down, and each of the galactics would be in the lead, one of the leaders, and then we would allow the leaders to speak. It wouldn't be us speaking, it wouldn't be channeling like this, but we would be there to prompt them from what we knew from both sides now. And almost inevitably that would lead to a just conclusion to the war or hostilities and peace, because every side understood that we understood all the ramifications of the fighting, and therefore we could make a judgment that we could pass on to the politicians whose bodies we were in, and they would be able to come to a rational, reasonable, just conclusion to their hostilities. And that was a great purpose. And then the other purpose, I think, is just like with Embrosewyn, where I have come in with Embrosewyn and have helped him to channel many of the beings of the Celestine Order of Light. And you remember that when he first started, and all the different ones and the information that came in. Well, that's something that I was able to do because of the great friendship that I had and have with Embrosewyn. But other galactics have those type of relationships with other people as well on other planets, and so that's another great purpose that Celestine Order of Light does. And most of those of us in Celestine Order of Light, even though we didn't realize it at the time, because we kind of emulate the angels of Elohim now, but we all had responsibilities. So for instance, my responsibility, my area of interest, and this is nothing somebody assigned to me, this is just my decision. I said, okay, I'm very interested in Celestine Vibronics. Celestine Vibronics is a healing science that originated with the Celestine Order of Light, and it uses all 5 senses and treats people for mental, emotional and physical ailments using all the 5 senses and also special Celestine Vibronics techniques. Well, this fascinated me, and so I spent a great deal of time studying it, and then that became my little side mission, if you will, that I assigned to myself, that anyone on different worlds who could do full body trance channeling and was interested in Celestine Vibronics, I would become their teacher, and I did this on many worlds for many people. So I think I've been long-winded enough on that subject.
Okay, yeah, wow. I kept trying to interject a question, but I had to wait till you finished. Let's go.
Because if you interrupt me, I don't remember what my train of thought was.
Yeah, I think that's the same for all of us.
Just because I have a dream does not mean I have a hair memory.
Okay, well, let's go back to the being that was the walk-in.
Well, I thought we were past that already.
Well, that prompted a new question that I hadn't thought of is, do you still have a close relationship with that being? Are you in the same place that you can like
No.
get together? Oh, you don't even have a connection.
Well, we have a connection still, but it's just like, oh, well, just like you have a connection with a friend that you were in high school with or something. I've progressed actually beyond that being now, so the
Interesting.
student has become the teacher.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so you talked about the Celestine Order of Light.
I have a question.
Okay.
Before we continue, can you shave all this stuff off? It's very
Sorry,
irritating.
no can do.
Very, very irritating.
Well, you'll just have to focus.
Well, I could focus if everything wasn't itching everywhere.
Okay, well, we won't think about that.
Oh, you should have a good look.